Bullies have no idea the chubby kid. They mock his training to become a boxing beast. What if the person you humiliated the most was hiding a secret that could change everything? This is the story of Leo, a shy boy with a little extra weight, who became the constant target of cruel jokes. What no one knew was that while they laughed at him, Leo was silently preparing to become a champion. At school, he was just the clumsy, chubby kid, the one who walked with his head down, avoiding any kind of confrontation. But the emotional scars he carried were making him stronger than he ever imagined. Today, you'll witness the extraordinary journey of a boy who decided to fight back, literally, not just to prove his worth, but to teach a lesson no one would ever forget. Leo's mornings always began the same way, a sinking feeling in his stomach as he approached the school gates. The laughter of his classmates echoed in his mind even before he stepped into the building. They didn't even wait for a reason anymore. His very presence was enough to make him the punchline of every cruel joke. "Hey, don't break the stairs, Leo!" shouted a boy from the top of the school's main steps as Leo climbed them, his backpack sagging with books. The group erupted into laughter. Leo didn't say a word. He never did. Instead, he kept his head down, staring at his worn-out sneakers as if they could shield him from the world's cruelty. It wasn't just the boys. Even the girls joined in sometimes, whispering insults and giggling as he passed by. "Poor Leo. Maybe we should start a fundraiser to get him a treadmill," one of them sneered. The words cut deeper than any punch ever could. But Leo wasn't just fighting against his classmates. Even some teachers dismissed him. In gym class, the coach would shake his head in disappointment when Leo couldn't keep up during the laps. "You need to work harder, kid," he'd say, not even bothering to lower his voice. At home, things weren't much better. Leo's parents loved him, but they didn't quite understand the magnitude of what he was going through. "Just ignore them, sweetheart," his mother would say, patting his shoulder as if that would make the bullying disappear. His father, a man of few words, would grunt, "Toughen up. The world's not kind to people who can't stand their ground." Leo tried. He really did, but the weight of the world felt unbearable when you carried it all alone. At night, he stared at the ceiling of his small bedroom, wondering if things would ever change. What Leo didn't realize was that change wasn't something you waited for, it was something you created. It happened during lunch break, a moment that would forever alter the course of Leo's life. He had been sitting alone at his usual table in the corner of the cafeteria, quietly eating his sandwich when the bullies approached. This time, they weren't just looking to laugh at him. They wanted to humiliate him. "Hey, Leo," said Ryan, the ringleader, with a fake smile plastered across his face. Ryan was everything Leo wasn't: tall, athletic, and confident. "You ever think about why no one sits with you? Maybe you're just too much of a load for the table to handle." The group of boys roared with laughter. Leo clenched his fists under the table, but kept his eyes on his food. He had learned long ago that reacting only made things worse. But Ryan wasn't done. He grabbed Leo's sandwich and tossed it onto the floor. "Oops, guess you don't need that, huh? Looks like you've had enough." The cafeteria erupted in laughter, the noise deafening. Leo's face burned with shame. He wanted to disappear, to melt into the walls and never come back. But something inside him snapped. He stood up, trembling, not with fear, but with a new, unfamiliar anger. "You think this is funny?" he said, his voice cracking but louder than anyone had ever heard him speak. The room fell silent. For a moment, even Ryan seemed taken aback. Then, as quickly as the silence came, it was broken by more laughter. "Look at him," Ryan sneered. "The big guy thinks he's tough now." Leo stormed out of the cafeteria, his heart pounding. Tears blurred his vision, but they weren't just tears of sadness. They were tears of frustration, of rage. For the first time, he realized he couldn't take it anymore. Something had to change. That night, he sat in his room, staring at his reflection in the mirror. He saw a boy who had been broken time and time again, but he also saw something else, a spark, a determination he had never noticed before. "This ends now," he whispered to himself. Leo didn't know how he would change, but he knew one thing for sure. He wouldn't be the same boy walking into school tomorrow. The next morning, Leo woke up earlier than usual. The world outside was still dark, the only light coming from the street lamps, casting faint shadows on the pavement. He had made a decision, one that would change everything. He dug through the storage closet at home until he found what he was looking for, an old pair of boxing gloves. They had belonged to his uncle, a former amateur boxer who used to tell Leo stories of glory in the ring. The gloves were worn and smelled faintly of leather and sweat, but to Leo, they felt like a lifeline. His first stop was the local gym. It wasn't fancy, just a small, dimly lit space with rusted equipment and the smell of hard work hanging in the air. The owner, a grizzled man named Manny, watched as Leo hesitantly stepped inside. "You lost, kid?" Manny asked, raising an eyebrow. "No," Leo said, trying to keep his voice steady. "I want to learn how to box." Manny chuckled, shaking his head. "Boxing ain't for everyone, especially not kids like you. You're gonna need more than gloves to survive in here." "I don't care," Leo said firmly, surprising even himself. "I'll do whatever it takes. Just give me a chance." There was something in Leo's voice, an intensity, a desperation that made Manny pause. After a moment, he sighed. "All right, kid. If you're serious, you show up here every day at 5 a.m. sharp. No excuses, no whining. Got it?" Leo nodded. He didn't realize then just how much work was ahead of him. The first weeks were brutal. Manny didn't let him touch a punching bag, let alone spar with anyone. "You've got to build a foundation first," he barked. Leo spent hours jumping rope, running laps, and doing endless push-ups and sit-ups. His muscles ached, and there were days he wanted to quit. But every time he thought about Ryan and the bullies, he pushed himself harder. As the weeks turned into months, Leo began to change. The weight he had carried, both physically and emotionally, started to shed. His punches grew faster, his stance steadier. But it wasn't just his body that transformed. His confidence grew with every drop of sweat that hit the gym floor. Manny noticed. "You've got fire, kid," he said one morning, as Leo landed a series of quick jabs on the heavy bag. "But boxing isn't just about strength or speed, it's about heart. You've got to believe in yourself when no one else does." And Leo did. For the first time in his life, he believed he was more than the names they called him, more than the boy who ate lunch alone. He wasn't ready to face the bullies yet, but he knew that day was coming. One evening, as he shadow-boxed in front of the mirror, he saw something new in his reflection. Gone was the scared, timid boy who avoided eye contact and shuffled through the hallways. In his place stood someone stronger, someone ready to fight for himself. Leo walked into school one Monday morning, but something was different. His posture was upright, his shoulders squared, and his chin held high. It wasn't arrogance, it was quiet confidence, the kind that made people turn their heads and look twice. Ryan and his crew were lounging by the lockers, laughing about something as they always did. Leo passed by without flinching, not even glancing in their direction. "Hey, look who decided to grow a backbone," Ryan said, his voice dripping with mockery. "Where's the chubby little mouse we used to know?" Leo didn't stop, he didn't respond. He just kept walking, his calm demeanor unnerving Ryan and his friends more than any comeback ever could. "Hey, I'm talking to you, Leo," Ryan shouted, his voice louder now, tinged with frustration. But Leo didn't even break stride. By lunchtime, rumors were already spreading, whispers filled the cafeteria. "Did you see Leo today? He looks different." Some of the kids who used to laugh at him now watched him with a mix of curiosity and unease. Later that day, during gym class, the real shift began. The teacher announced they'd be doing fitness drills, and Leo caught a few amused glances from Ryan and his crew. "This should be good," one of them muttered under his breath. But as the drill started, the room grew quiet. Leo wasn't just keeping up, he was outpacing everyone. Push-ups, sprints, agility exercises, he crushed them all. His movements were sharp and focused, each one a testament to the months of training he had endured in silence. Ryan's smirk faded as he watched Leo sprint across the gym floor, finishing his laps a full 10 seconds ahead of everyone else. For the first time, he wasn't sure what to make of the boy he had spent years tormenting. After class, Ryan decided to confront him. He cornered Leo by the water fountains, his friends lingering behind him. "All right, what's your deal? You think you're better than us now or something?" Leo turned to face him, his expression calm but unwavering. "I don't think I'm better than anyone, Ryan," he said, his voice steady. "But I know I'm not less." Ryan stepped closer, trying to reassert his dominance. "You think you're tough just because you ran a little faster today?" Leo didn't flinch. "Try me," he said, his voice low but firm. The challenge hung in the air, electrifying the space between them. Ryan narrowed his eyes, unsure whether to laugh or take him seriously. But one thing was clear: Leo was no longer the boy they used to mock. The tension between Leo and Ryan had been building ever since that day by the water fountains. The entire school seemed to sense it, and whispers followed Leo through the halls. Some of the students who used to mock him now watched in awe, curious about the transformation they couldn't ignore. But Ryan wasn't just going to let it slide. A week later, the opportunity presented itself. It was during a Friday afternoon pep rally in the school gym. The whole school was gathered, and the basketball team was being hyped up for their big game. Ryan, of course, stood front and center, soaking up the attention. As the noise died down, Ryan glanced over at Leo, who stood quietly near the back of the gym. A smirk spread across Ryan's face as an idea took shape. He nudged one of his friends and whispered something, prompting a burst of laughter from the group. Ryan walked to the center of the gym floor, clapping his hands to get everyone's attention. "Hey, everyone!" he shouted, his voice echoing in the large space. "Since we're all here to celebrate our athletes, why don't we have a little demonstration?" The crowd murmured in confusion, and Ryan pointed directly at Leo. "What do you say, Leo? You've been acting all big and tough lately. Why don't you show us what you've got? A friendly little sparring match, you and me, right here." The room fell silent, all eyes shifting to Leo. For a moment he hesitated, not because he was afraid of Ryan, but because he knew this was the moment he had been preparing for. "All right," Leo said, stepping forward. His voice was calm, but his eyes burned with quiet intensity. "Let's do it." The gym erupted in cheers and gasps as Ryan's friends quickly set up a makeshift ring in the center of the floor. A few teachers protested, but the students drowned them out with chants of "Fight! Fight! Fight!" Ryan removed his Letterman jacket, rolling his shoulders as he laughed. "This'll be quick," he said, throwing a mock jab in Leo's direction. "Don't say I didn't warn you." Leo tightened the wraps around his hands, a habit he had learned from months of training with Manny. He didn't need to say anything. His silence spoke volumes. The two boys squared off in the center of the ring, surrounded by a roaring crowd. Ryan came out swinging, throwing wild punches meant to intimidate. But Leo was calm, his movements precise and deliberate. He dodged every punch with ease, his training taking over like second nature. The crowd grew louder as it became clear that Leo wasn't just holding his own, he was in complete control. Ryan's frustration mounted. "Stand still, you coward!" he shouted, lunging forward with a powerful hook, but Leo saw it coming. He stepped aside and countered with a perfectly timed jab to Ryan's ribs, sending him stumbling back. The gym went silent for a moment as Ryan clutched his side, glaring at Leo with a mix of shock and anger. "You got lucky," he spat. "No," Leo said calmly, his voice carrying through the gym. "I worked for this." Ryan charged again, but this time, Leo didn't just dodge, he went on the offensive. A series of quick, sharp punches landed cleanly, forcing Ryan to backpedal. Each blow was a reminder of every cruel word, every mocking laugh, every humiliation Leo had endured. Finally, with one last powerful right hook, Leo sent Ryan sprawling to the floor. The gym erupted in cheers and gasps as Ryan lay there, stunned. Leo didn't celebrate. He simply extended a hand to Ryan, who hesitated before taking it. "It's over," Leo said, helping him up. Ryan didn't say a word. He just nodded, his arrogance shattered. The gym slowly fell silent as Leo helped Ryan to his feet. The crowd, still buzzing with the shock of what they'd just witnessed, watched as the two boys stood face to face. Ryan's usual smirk was gone, replaced by something that almost resembled respect, or at least the beginnings of it. Leo turned to the crowd, his breathing heavy, but his voice steady. "This wasn't about winning," he said, his words cutting through the noise like a blade. "It's about standing up for yourself. It's about not letting anyone decide your worth." The students, who had once laughed at him, now looked at him in a different light. Some of them nodded, others looked down, ashamed of how they had joined in Ryan's cruelty. Ryan opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. He just lowered his head, the weight of his defeat, both physical and moral, pressing down on him. That evening, Leo walked home, the cool air brushing against his face. He felt a sense of peace he hadn't known in years. It wasn't just about the fight, it was about the journey that had led him there. The months of early mornings, grueling workouts, and silent determination had paid off, not because he had beaten Ryan, but because he had proven something to himself. At the gym the next day, Manny greeted him with a rare grin. "Heard you made quite a statement, kid," he said, clapping Leo on the shoulder. "But don't let it get to your head. This is just the beginning." Leo smiled, nodding. "I know," he said. In the weeks that followed, things began to change at school. The bullies no longer bothered Leo, and even Ryan seemed to keep his distance. But the real surprise was how others began to approach him, not out of fear, but out of admiration. Kids who had been too afraid to speak up before started standing a little taller, inspired by what Leo had done. Leo realized that his journey wasn't just about him. By standing up for himself, he had shown others that they could do the same. Leo's story is a reminder that strength doesn't come from the approval of others, it comes from within. Sometimes life throws us into battles we don't think we're ready for, but those battles can shape us, push us, and help us discover who we really are. What would you do if faced with the same challenges as Leo? Would you stand up for yourself no matter how hard it gets? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story inspired you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell. Remember, every champion starts as an underdog.